Good evening. For almost 4 decades, it's been my honor and privilege to work with Mr. Broadwell. With your permission, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you what it was like in those early years. First, I'm sure some of you wondered why he waited so long to retire. It may date back to a conversation the two of us had not long after I joined the bank. Howard, I feel like I've got a tiger by the tail. If I could ever get you pointed in the right direction, I might have something. Well, it looks like you finally threw in the towel and told Dana to have a crack at it. If you didn't know Mr. Broadwell in the early years, you probably don't realize what a softy he's become. In the old days, you might say he was deliberate when he made decisions. Consider one of my first process improvement suggestions. When I first came to work, if a customer wanted to withdraw $20 from his account, we'd process the transaction, go to a typewriter behind the teller counter, type an official check, have the customer endorse it, and finally hand over the $20. Kathy, this seemed like a great opportunity to kill a stupid rule. So I suggested we simply process cash withdrawals. The old Mr. Broadwell made me write 50 pages of analysis addressing the complexity of this change before it was approved. Those of you who have only experienced the hyperspeed of our current decision-making process should consider yourselves lucky. In the old days, meetings weren't always the crisp, fast-moving affairs we experienced now. In fact, they were known to go a little long. The first question asked at our breakfast meetings was often, I wonder what we'll have for dinner. And the board meetings, oh my. Fortunately, I only presented loans occasionally, and Mr. Broadwell's deep concern for the proper work-life balance always ensured I'd be home by 2 in the morning. As a young pup, the first thing I learned about our managers' meetings was that Mr. Broadwell could go all day long without needing to go to the bathroom. And he sometimes was slow to remember the rest of us needed to take off. One day, after waiting as long as I could, I began slowly making my way to the door, only to be stopped by Mr. Broadwell, raised his finger and said, "Wait, I want to make one more point." Holy moly, was I in trouble. Christmas trees can mature in less time. Of managing our Skyland office, I returned to Clyde to start our operations department. I remember thinking this was going to be a great opportunity to learn from the master himself. I asked a coworker to pull about 20 of Mr. B's loan files to review. She brings what looks like the first one, and when she hands it to me, I realize it's all 20. You've never seen such skinny files. The application and the appraisal was a single-page form. There was a note and a deed of trust, that's about it. Here we were, 30 years before Countrywide, and Mr. B was already originating no doc loans. Mr. Broadwell was always blazing new trails, literally. I remember driving to Greensboro for a business meeting and glancing into the rear view mirror to see a car flying up from behind. I was caught and passed in a heartbeat. Guess who? Yep, Mr. Broadwell had the steering wheel in one hand and his reading material in the other. As far as I noted, that made him our very first employee to be caught texting while driving. In the 70s, Mr. Broadwell was an avid tennis player. One day he comes into the office sporting a shiny new cast. The story at the time was that after winning his match, he attempted a victory leap over the net. Only to prove once again that white men can't jump. We thought it was funny at the time, but only because none of us realized it would take him almost 15 years